afternoon and welcome to the Carrier with IFTA training. My name is Andy. At this point in time, our phones are on lecture mode, so we can go through the training session. If there's any questions, please stay on the line after the training session is over, and I'd be more than glad to answer your questions. So today what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to get your account set up for IFTA, your truck set up, how to create loads, and how to do your IFTA. Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to go to admin. If you're administration, you'll have admin. You'll be able to go down to preference, IFTA. You need to set up your legal business name or you're doing business as, your IFTA account number, and the state you're registered out of. I'm going to just change that back to Florida. And we're going to say save. Okay. The next step is to go to admin, go to trucks, and you're going to set your trucks up. All right. So you go to add, open up your trucks. You're going to put in your truck number, the truck type, like Freightliner, Peterbilt, Kenworth, etc. And then to set your trucks up for IFTA, you need to click on IFTA form. You need to go to the right and select the fuel type, being diesel. Include this truck for IFTA, putting in a check mark into this box, and select the state you registered. If you do not select this truck for IFTA, you will see a red circle with a white X. It means you can still use the truck on a load, but it's not included for IFTA. In order to include it for IFTA, again, you need to click on IFTA form, include this truck for IFTA, and then click save. Once you have saved the trucks, then your next step is to start creating your loads. All right. Oh, by the way, if you do need to add more trucks to your account, underneath need help, you have add-ons, add IFTA trucks. You can go down to pricing. You can include however many more trucks you need, like one more truck at $5. I agree to the terms and add a product now. Once you've added your product, again, you'll go back to admin, trucks, and then add your trucks for IFTA. Okay, as simple as that. All right, so now that we have our truck set up, we have our account set up, it's time to create our loads. Pretty much standard, creating your loads. You're going to have your bill to customer, you're going to have all your bill to information, then you're going to add your driver. Once you have added your driver, equipment type, then you're going to select your truck number. As soon as you select a truck number, it is going to bring up a suggested start location. This will be the end location from the last trip. It is extremely important to make sure that you have the end location from the last trip because it needs to match with this trip that you're doing now and bring in the empty miles. Okay, so the last trip we ended up in Penetanguishene, Ontario. I'm going to send the driver empty to Coconut Grove, Florida to pick the load up. Okay. He's going to pick it up on the 18th at 8 a.m. You can add a description, type, quantity, and weight if you so wish to do so. Any shipping notes, PO number, purchase order number, custom broker if he's moving freight into Canada or Mexico. And then your next step is the consignee, where he is delivering the load. So he's going to go empty, or he's going to go, loaded from Coconut Grove, Florida to Penetanguishene, Ontario, and he's going to deliver on the 20th at 6 a.m. It is important to use your dates and times to sequence the correctness of the order of the load, especially if you start getting into multiple picks or multiple drops and or LTL or multiple driver loads. Use your times and dates. If you don't want to show your times to the driver, just uncheck mark where it says show time, and the driver will not see it. But to sequence the correctness of the order of the load, please use your times and dates correctly. This helps out. All right. So then again, when you go to the little pro mile calculator, you click on the calculator, you're going to see you have 1,571 empty miles from Penetanguishene to Coconut Grove, Florida, and then 1,571 loaded miles, empty miles. Okay. All right. So now we have our from Penetanguishene to Coconut Grove to Penetanguishene, Ontario. Should your driver go somewhere different than where he ended up delivering, and he's going to go wait, like 30, 40 miles away from the location where he's empty out for the next day or whatever the case may be over the weekend. Click on the flag to the right where it says consignee. There's a little flag. You can enter a finished location. So in this case, let's just say he went to Barrie, Ontario, empty from Penetang Machine, Ontario. When I click save and I click run miles, it added up some more empty miles. Again, it's going to bring the truck empty from Penetang Machine to Barrie. Then when I go to create my next load, he will start out of Barrie, Ontario in the suggested start location to wherever I send him to go pick up his next load. Okay, and this is the only time in which you need to add a finished location. If the driver goes empty from Penetang and I send him to Barrie to pick up the load, Penetang will be the suggested start location, and Barrie, Ontario will be where he's picking his load up. Okay, all right. So now that we've got our loads created correctly, we're going to click save. We've got a truck number added on there. And now we're coming to the closure of that load, and he's going to deliver it. Then what you can do is click on the load number before you change it to the completed or unloaded status. Go to waypoints. Here in waypoints, inside of the load, you can look at where that truck started from. Yep, he went empty from Penetang to Coconut Grove to Penetang, yes. And then he went to Barrie, okay, because I put in that end location, and that he's going to call me on Monday and say, I'm here in Barrie, where do you have the next load for me? Then Barrie, Ontario is going to be the suggested start location to his next trip. Okay, it's extremely important to make sure you have this in the right order. All right, so our next step is to make sure we click run miles. It's going to show the miles between Penetang and Coconut Grove, and then from Coconut Grove to Penetang to Barrie. Well, to see the direction or the routing that that truck might have taken, clicking on the pencil to the right, I'm going to see it went through Ontario, New York, PA, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. If this is not the case, but he went a different direction. So this would have taken me through Buffalo and down 95 to Miami area. Okay, so right along the eastern seaboard. All right, so if that not be the case, I can then go to the top left-hand side, click add a stop. It brings in a stop down here. Okay, I can change it to a stop. I can select the date. I'm going to say on the 18th of October. Okay, I'm going to put a 0 for the ODO because I do not know what it is. I'm going to select a state. Okay, I'm going to say he went through Georgia and he went to Atlanta, and always select from the drop down. So we got he went to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm then going to go to the far right hand side. You see these little up down arrows? It says drag up and down. Drag it up in between Penetang and Coconut Grove, and then rerun your miles. When you rerun your miles, it is now going to go from Penetang Machine to Atlanta. If I click on the pencil, I'm going to see it went through Ontario, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. So it ran through Detroit and then 75 south. Okay, so that's how you can add a stop or add a different direction than what the system is. Our system runs from city center to city center, practical miles. Okay, so again, if that's not the direction your truck went, you need to go inside of the pencil and reroute the truck. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing coming home. So coming from Coconut Grove to Penetang Machine, Ontario, I can add a stop. I'm going to call it a stop. Clicking on my drop down arrow, I'm going to click on the date, and again, I'm going to select here now. I'm going to select on the 20th, put a 0 for the ODO, countries USA, and I'm going to say, let's just see what happens if I just select Michigan, and I'm going to write Detroit. Okay, Detroit, Michigan, and then we're going to drag it and drop it in between Coconut Grove and Penetang Machine, Ontario. We are going to rerun our miles, clicking run miles. Okay, so now let's look and see what it went. We've got Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Michigan. Okay, again, this run is, and now just for your awareness, Coconut Grove is on the Miami. So it's right on 95 there. So it kind of doesn't make sense to run it back up through to Tampa or 75 and then 75 south, because this would be the practical route. But that again, if that not be the case and your driver did go 75, you're going to need to possibly, even so, let's change this, because we know if I select Georgia and type in Atlanta and then run my miles, it's going to run from Coconut Grove to Atlanta. So it's going to show me Florida, Georgia, and then from Atlanta to Penetanguishene, Ontario, it's going to run Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Ontario. Again, that's how you reroute or direct your truck. So this is something you want to kind of be on top of, as to wait until the end of the quarter and then try to figure it out then and say, well, hey, my truck never went through Virginia or South Carolina, because he always ran 75. He never ran the southern route. Okay, so this is how you'd add that. All right, so now we're going to save our changes. We're going to save the load. We'd then go in, complete the load. The load now is in the completed status, ready for the accounting department to go ahead and do what they need to do with it. I can go to IFTA, waypoint summaries, select the quarter, select the truck number, and confirm the direction and everything is correct in my loads. So again, as I said before, his last trip ended in Penetanguishene. The next one started in Penetanguishene. Now, when I go to create his new load, it should be Barrie, Ontario. Okay, simple as that. Now, guys, that's how you create your loads. We got one other thing that you can do. You can go to IFTA, add your fuel. Adding fuel, you have 3 locations. You have here in the IFTA fuel receipts, where you can add a line. You need to select the date. So I'm going to just go back to, what was that, October 20th. I'm going to put in a 0 for the receipt number, or you can put in, say, if you have a receipt number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say Husky. And I'm going to say he went to, in this case, Husky is in Ontario. Down there, okay, Ontario. I'm going to select liters, and I'm going to say put in 500 liters, diesel, currency's Canadian, whatever, I'm going to just say 600 bucks. All right, as easy as that. When you click save, you're going to see it says changes have been saved. If you do not see that, the likelihood if you just exit out, it's not going to be there when you go back in. It is extremely important. Make sure you save your changes and you're aware of the changes. I do like when people, you know, they'll create a number of lines. And then they'll go to save it, and all of a sudden, because they've been doing this for like 20, 30 minutes, the system timed out on them. And then when they go to click save, nothing happens. So please, do 1 or 2 at a time, okay? That's one of the better ways to do it this way. So now what I'm just going to do is delete all my lines that I just added in there. Hovering my mouse over it and deleting the lines. Okay. So as I said, you have 3 different ways in which to add fuel. You can add fuel through the IFTA fuel receipts, or inside of a load. Sorry, inside of a load, by adding a stop. Remember under the waypoints? I can add a stop. I can call it fuel. I can select the date. I'm going to say on the 18th. Okay. I'm going to put in a 0 for the ODO. Select the country, USA. I'm going to say, oh heck, let's do that. Let's go with Michigan. I'm going to say Detroit. Select Detroit. I'm going to click on the fuel pump. Put in the, make sure the receipt date's correct. Receipt number. Okay, the station. We're going to just call it a TA truck stop. Gallons. I'm going to put in, say, 300 gallons. the value. I'm going to say $600 and then click Save. Okay. I am then going to drag this and drop it in the appropriate place. So we're going to say from Penetang, he went to Detroit, put on some fuel, and then went to Atlanta, etc. Rerun my miles. And there's your second place in which you can add fuel. Click Save. And again, that trip is done and ready to go. The third place in which you can add fuel, just create a fuel so you can see what it looks like. You could send us an Excel spreadsheet properly formatted, okay, with the columns in which you see here. This here column needs to be the truck numbers. So if it's truck 100, 1000, 1002, 1005, 1006, you need to have a column with all of the truck numbers. The truck numbers have to match your credit card statement, and it has to match on to ITS dispatch. If it does not, you need to make it so it does match, because our system will not know where that fuel goes. You need to have a receipt date, and the date has to be year, month, day. Okay, that column that you have the receipt date has to be year, month, day. The receipt number, that's the receipt on that fuel purchase. The station, like a Husky, TA, Flying J, Pilot, etc. The state or province purchased. Okay. Gallons or liters if you cross the border. The fuel volume, that is the quantity, how many gallons. Now, if you have 300.499, round it up to 301. Okay. Because if sometimes the system will not recognize that, and all of a sudden it's going to say you've had 301,000 gallons of fuel. All right. Okay, so fuel volume, diesel, the fuel type, currency, US or Canadian dollars, and the value. Again, in your Excel spreadsheet, properly formatted, will kind of look like this. You have each of these columns, and you have the information in it. You can send it to support@itsdispatch.com with your account number, and it has to match the quarter that you want us to input it into, and we'll definitely input it into the system for you. It takes up to 12 to 24 hours, and again, we'd be glad to help you out. And that's during the regular business days, Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time. Okay? All right, so that's your other way of adding fuel to the system. So now that you have the fuel entered in the system, you have the trip completed, you've gone into your IFTA waypoint summaries, you confirm the correctness of your trips, everything is correct to the best of your knowledge. At that point in time, you can go to IFTA, Report, select the quarter. First of all, excuse me, select Quarterly Report, select your quarter. I'm going to actually select the last quarter. Should have a tax number there. Select your trucks, if it's all trucks, the state, and then click Generate. It's going to open up a quarterly report through Adobe Reader. You're going to say OK. And this is what a IFTA quarterly tax report would look like if you're in the state of Florida. All right. Just close this out. So you've got the state information. You have the tax period. You have your company name, your IFTA account number, and then down below, and every form is different for each state. So, but this is how Florida's looks. You're going to have a column that shows how many miles you traveled, how many gallons of fuel you put on, and the average fuel mileage. In most cases, fleets are averaging probably between 4.5 and 7 miles per gallon. And 7.26 isn't too bad. It's a single truck, and you're a very efficient fleet. All right. Then you're going to scroll on down a little bit further. Some of the forms have instructions on how to complete them and send them in. But what you're looking for when you go down to the report that has all of the states that you travel through, obviously you're looking to make sure, yes, I have traveled through these states, okay, and that there's no errors in it that you can see the best of your knowledge. One of the things that commonly happens is people have, let's just for instance, we have purchased 600 gallons of fuel, but we had no miles. but we have Florida there for 600 miles or 600 gallons of fuel. Two of the things that happen. Generally, it's a typo where you click the wrong state, and or the truck should have went through Florida and had Florida miles, but because it ran the practical route, it didn't run it that way. So then what you'd need to do is, my suggestion is, go look where you get the 600 gallons of fuel. Look at the date, and then go look at the trip. And then look at the trip to see if it went that direction. If it didn't, then you're going to have to add the stops so that the truck can run the way that that you have to purchase the fuel. Okay. So again, it's pretty straightforward. You can print the IFTA Quarterly Tax Report as many times as you would like. Again, that's what an IFTA Quarterly Tax Report would look like. The next one that we have that's commonly used is a road use report. And this covers you for the 4 states in which you need to file separate fuel tax forms. Now, they're not the IFTA, because this is the form that we have for you, but this is a road use report. I forget what the type of tax it is, but let me just open it up here. And the states that you have to file for are New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Kentucky. And what our system has done is broken the miles out of the main report and put it on here so that you can transpose the numbers from here to the road use report that you need to do. Okay. All right. So that covers you for that. We do have something else that you might be able to use for to help you out is a monthly mileage report. I'm going to select a month that has miles in it. I'm going to say August. And this is going to open up in an Excel spreadsheet. This is what this is going to look like. Again, it's called a monthly mileage report, and it's basically for your purpose only. So what it's showing you is a month of August, from August 1st to August 31st. Truck number 100, showing me the provinces or states it has traveled through and the number of miles for that particular month. Okay. Again, that's a monthly mileage report. It opens up in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's just for your purpose and your purpose only. Okay, so that's coming to the conclusion of our Carrier with IFTA training. I am going to touch on 2 other types of loads that are quite important for IFTA, and they are an LTL load, where you have a multiple customer load. So you get customer number 1 picked up in, say, Barrie, Ontario, customer number 2 picked up in Mississauga, customer number 3 picked up in London, Ontario, and all 3 of these loads are heading out west. So maybe I have a delivery in Salt Lake City, a delivery in Cheyenne, and a delivery in LA, okay? I wouldn't create it as 3 different loads because it's going to triple my miles. I would create it as an LTL load. So I'll say I get 10 skids, 4 skids, another 6 skids. So I get 20 skids in total in my trailer. And again, this is what's called an LTL, less than a truckload. For billing purposes, I have 3 different load numbers. Okay, so I have load number 1, 2, and 3-L. But when you go inside of the load, you have 3 loads combined together. With an LTL load, it is important to make sure you use your dates and times to sequence the correctness of the order of that load. For the order of the pickups, the order of the deliveries, and everything follows. The suggested start location, as soon as you assign it to customer number 1, let's just go into this. Let's go to Barrie, Ontario. So I've got Barrie, and then the next one is going to be Barrie. Every one should be Barrie, Ontario, okay? The reason being because the original starting location started out of Barrie, and then again, say I picked up in Bon Head, where I bought my fuel. I picked up in Bon Head, picked up in London, picked up in Detroit. Okay. Again, use your times and dates to sequence the correctness, and the suggested start location should be the same on each one for an LTL load. Okay. If you need assistance with that, please give us a call, or under help, we have training videos. Scroll down to loads, how to create an LTL load. please take the time, watch this. This could help you out, or again, give us a call. The other type of load that's important for IFTA is how to create a multiple driver load. Okay, again, we have the video here, and a multiple driver load will look like this. So say we got the build to customer, we have one driver right at the moment. He's picking up in, he's picking up in Beacon Bay, Ontario, or in Penetangwisheen, Ontario, and he's going to go to Viking in New Gretna, New Jersey. All right, so driver number one picks the load up, and then he starts to make it to the border, and he breaks down or he gets shut down. I need now to create what's called a multiple driver load. And a multiple driver load looks like this. So for billing purposes, we still have our build to customer where the load's picking up, where it's delivering. Customer doesn't need to know that I have driver number one picked up the load in Beacon Bay. Okay, so Beacon Bay yacht sales, and then he made it to customs, and let's say that's Buffalo. So he made it to Buffalo customs, he breaks down or gets shut down, one or the other. And then driver number two needs to pick the load up. So we're going to add a driver, so put driver's information in. It automatically puts in the shipper as Buffalo, because that's where the driver ends up with it. And then I'm going to go, he's going to Viking Yacht Sales in New Jersey to deliver the load. Simple as that. So it breaks it down. Driver number one, wherever he started from, you'll have his suggested start location. He went from, say, he went from Aurelia to Buffalo, and then from Buffalo, New Jersey. Driver number one went from Barrie, Ontario, to Penetang to Buffalo. Okay, simple as that. Again, if you need assistance with these types of loads, give us a call. Be glad to help you out and work through it with you. All right, so that does pretty much conclude us for the Carrier with IFTA training. I'd like to thank you for participating. If you have any further questions, please stay on the line. I'll be more than glad to answer your questions at this time.